Newsfirst Newsline.
Hello there, very good evening. Welcome to another edition of Newsline, coming to you as always live and direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. We've dedicated a lot of time on Newsline, especially this week as well, to discuss the COVID-19 response in Sri Lanka and, of course, as we always do, the political backdrop in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic here in Sri Lanka. And today, to discuss these matters and more, we've got on our show with us the General Secretary of the Communist Party, Dr. G. Weerasinghe. A very good evening, Doctor, and welcome to the show.
Good evening.
Doctor, I don't really like to start off from this topic, but this is something that the general public are really at odds with. They can't really wrap their heads around how someone could do something like this. But I will pose this question to you first, as it's been discussed quite broadly among the public, and it's the decision that was taken and subsequently reversed, the decision surrounding the import of luxury vehicles for parliamentarians. Now, since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, the general public have been asked to tighten their belts, to survive by a bare minimum, and there are people who before the COVID-19 pandemic were surviving by a bare minimum. Where do you go from there? Now, in the face of all of this, we hear of this decision that has been reached by the leaders of this country to import luxury vehicles for themselves. However, the public outcry resulted in this decision being reversed. What is the stance of the Sri Lanka Communist Party on this matter?
Yeah, I think that, it shouldn't have happened because it's probably a mix of, priorities. Our priorities are probably not importing vehicles at this moment, as you very correctly said, that we have been asking public to tighten their belts, and there are a lot of restrictions, a lot of difficulties that are undergoing. I know that parliamentarians also, they have their own difficulties. There are newcomers to parliament, and they have their own difficulties. But I really don't know why the government didn't look for other alternatives. Like you see that probably they must be having enough good condition vehicles already within the government pool. As a temporary kind of measure, they would have probably provide that kind of vehicles instead of importing right now, because you would have postponed it a little further. But fortunately, for whatever the reasons, the government has decided to postpone this. It's a welcome move.
But Dr. Weerasinghe, the LCs have already been opened up, and now when the general public are discussing this, they're really wondering as to who was the person or the people behind making such a decision, because we've had countless political shows, of course, on our network and on other networks as well, and every politician, every parliamentarian who comes on the show says, we didn't even know this, especially government MPs. They say we didn't know about this. Even the cabinet spokesperson said that we didn't know about this, but the decision was made. The decision to reverse was made in the cabinet, so we know about that, and we've put out a release. Who really do you think made this decision? Because there was a decision made. There were LCs open, letters of credit, and letters of credit cannot be cancelled, they can only be postponed. Who made this decision, Doctor?
Yeah, I'm sure that there should be somebody who has who made this decision to import these vehicles. I am not privy to. I'm also not aware who had made this decision. But it's anyway. You see that. It's not. It seems to be. You see. It seems that not a. It's not a good decision. It seems to be that it's not a good decision. But anyway, you see that now they have reversed it, and they are going to postpone it probably. Or see that probably they can postpone it for maybe 1 year or whatever, right? and you know, until such time that they will be able to you know, provide them some kind of you know, transportation facilities to these MPs, they should be able to give, you know, vehicles from available government probably vehicle pool. I'm almost 100% sure that there should be a way to provide them you know, some kind of reasonable transport, right? And I know for sure that there are MPs, newly elected MPs in the parliament who do not have you know, a reasonable transport facilities, that they have to travel every now and then up and down long distances. Therefore, they deserve to have some kind of reasonable transport. I'm sure that that should be the way forward here.
Dr. Weerasinghe, the reason why I raised this question again, this will continue to unfold in the theme of today's show at least, which is to ensure that Sri Lankan public are united as one in the fight against this pandemic. And if certain factions, certain influential sections of Sri Lanka, in this case particularly the group that is supposed to lead us out of this mess, are trying to accrue privileges for their own well-being at the expense of the general public, the poor people who pay the taxes for them to enjoy those benefits, that will really cause a stir in the society and disharmony among the people, which is not a good thing for Sri Lankans. Speaking on the same theme, Doctor, I'd like to raise another issue with you, of course, also given your profession as a doctor. Recently, there was some sort of disharmony even among the medical community itself, and it was on full display as the paramedics or the paramedical associations accused the Government Medical Officers Association of strong-arming their way in and getting the COVID-19 vaccine for their family members, their close associates, and this was done through the Ministry of Health, of course. What is the situation surrounding this? How do you see this decision?
Yeah, you see, again, it's another move that has been taken without thinking much, looks like, right? Now, I know there are certain MOH divisions where they received vaccines to be given to doctors' parents, but they refused to do so, and they divided the received vaccines among all categories. You see, certain portion for PHIs, certain portions for public health midwives, like that. You see that you can, what I wanted to highlight here, you see, there are people, I mean, who can understand and who knows the correct way to handle things, right? Actually, it shouldn't have happened like that. You know, now the COVID-19 response, you know, now leave alone other groups, but when it comes to health sector, it's a teamwork. It's a team.
Doctors can't function without paramedics. Paramedics can't function without doctors.
You don't break that team. It's a crucial point. You have to strengthen the teamwork, right? Now, with a decision like this, the team is broken, which shouldn't have happened. But it is, you know, this is why I always say that, you see, I mean, the plight that we are in today actually is contributed not only by politicians, but by technical people as well. You know, here I'm sure there is a hand of these medical profession, right?
Dr. Weerasinghe, on our show we have space for, of course, questions from our viewers out there, and this question is regarding the vehicle imports. Don't mean to harp on this, but the media spokesperson of the cabinet media spokesperson told the general public at the cabinet meeting that the letters of credit that were opened for the import of these vehicles will be cancelled. And then they were questioned by journalists as to how can a letter of credit be cancelled, because it cannot be cancelled, it can only be postponed. However, the cabinet spokesperson said, no, we are a huge importer of vehicles, we will use our influence and cancel these letters of credit. Is this going to be another lie, like the dual citizenship issue that cropped up around the 20th Amendment to the Constitution?
Yeah, I think in this occasion, or in this instance, I mean, what we want to achieve is not importing the vehicles, right? That is what we want, either by postponing or if they can, cancelling it. But as you say that, and as many say, that it looks like that it's difficult to cancel. But of course, postponing should be able to achieve, I mean, should be able to achieve the postponing. So therefore, I mean, whatever the method that you are using, what is important at the moment is to save that kind of money at the moment, which otherwise, which will be seen in a very bad way to the government, right? To our national effort at the moment, right? Therefore, you see, the method is up to them. Let us postpone it or let us cancel it. Let us concentrate our priorities to needy issues, you see, needy issues, no?
Also, Doctor, again, this again brings to question the trust that the general public has placed in the government, and again, once again, the unity that we have as Sri Lankans, with especially our leaders, to lead us out of this mess. Recently speaking to the media, a member of one of the task forces that were established to especially bring down these vaccines and other matters said that we should have ordered the vaccines earlier. We were running behind various remedies that were said to be endowed upon us by gods and goddesses. During that time, we should have tried to procure vaccines. While other countries have procured vaccines, enough doses to vaccinate their populations 5 times over, we are still stuck with a meager amount of vaccines, only vaccinated about 1.6 to 2.5% of Sri Lankans, both 1 dose and 2 doses. And we don't have enough vaccines for the general public at all. What's your stance on this? Yeah,
you see, now actually it's also another missed opportunity, right? But now let us, now this vaccine issue, it's not a very small or very simple issue as somebody sees, right? Definitely there are deficiencies, there are shortcomings from our side, right? Shall we say from political leadership and from technical leadership as well, right? Now we, of course, the Communist Party of Sri Lanka, had been advocating from very early days of this epidemic, for the government to take an active stance, right? Actually, we had our reasons for that, right? We had our reasons because, the numbers was one reason, the numbers. We are a 20 million population, where we have about 5 million below 16 years of age. So we have to vaccinate only 15 million, right? Then WHO, came with their COVAX initiative, not only for us, but for the, for entire developing world, where they promised to give us 20%, right? So if you look at that way, right, then we had to buy maybe around 10 million or whatever vaccines, right? Is 1 dose, 2 doses, it's 20 million, right? Therefore, these 20 million, even if you spend $10, $15, $20, still it's worth. That was our stance. And number 2, why we were, stressing on that fact was that we are a very good vaccinating country, very good country.
We have a good procedure.
We are a leading country in that field because we are achieving almost closer to 100% in immunization of against other diseases. So therefore we have the experience, we have the infrastructure, we have everything. So therefore, my view was that government had to make that decision, actively work on it, to make the decision, to work actively right from the beginning. But I have said this repeatedly, but I'm really hurt on that. We requested, but it was not given a proper listening, neither by the government leaders, nor by the technical leaders. I know for sure, I have a strong belief that technical leaders also were not active on that point, right, on vaccine. Then that is one side of the story. But on the other hand, now what we have done is we are closer to 1.6 million or so vaccines we have given at the moment, at least 1 dose. The second dose we have given closer to 300,000 people, right? And when you compare with the world statistics, you said there are countries which have ordered 5 times what they want. Yeah, this is actually, that is one aspect of this problem, right? Now we are talking because people should know these things. some of they know, now the developed countries, the north, the global north is the developed world, right? They are actually 14% of population of the world, right? But they have ordered more than 50% of the vaccines that have produced or that are going to be produced. I can tell you 2.6 billion doses of vaccines have been bought by United States. Right. 2.6 billion. Can you imagine? Can you believe that? What is the population? It's about 230 or 240 million, right? So they have ordered 2.6 billion, right? And look at UK, right? Their population is 67 million. They have more than 500 million doses of vaccines in their stocks. This is why the developing world find it difficult to access vaccine, right? And so therefore, you see, and so that's another side of this story, right? And then there's another small thing also that you have to now look what happened to Sinopharm vaccines. We brought them in March, but entire 1 month we kept that vaccines in our stores without giving 600,000 vaccines.
Doctor, we will continue this conversation after this short commercial break, but before we cross over to the commercial break, some of our concerned viewers had questioned as to why I am not wearing a mask, but we have taken all safety precautions, of course, by setting up a frame here in our new studios where the guest does not come into contact with the host. And of course, any of our other stuff, the camera system has also been automated, giving you full assurance that safety precautions are being followed while we conduct our shows. We will be right back after this short commercial break. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Newsline live.
Newsfirst, Newsline.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsline Live. Getting back to our discussion with Dr. Weerasinghe, who is the General Secretary of the Communist Party. We, of course, have the added benefit of him being a medical professional, which gives him more knowledge in especially the aspect of managing this COVID-19 pandemic in Sri Lanka. Doctor, during the break, I received a number of questions, well, of course, raising the possibility of getting the assistance of the private sector in this vaccination drive. So the sentiment of the members of the public who sent in their messages, and as I know among certain people, is that if people who can afford the vaccine are given an opportunity to purchase the vaccine through, of course, private entities, private companies, allowing private companies to import the vaccine would support the vaccination drive in Sri Lanka. Is this true? Is this practical on medical terms?
Yeah, you see that now, in my view, you see that that is not a very prudent, very wise move at the moment, right? Now, with the vaccination program, probably you know that all of us know that there were certain guidelines that to be followed, right? You see that we imposed on certain age restrictions, right? This age to this age. And this particular group, right? Why? Because there are priorities in the program. Priorities in the program. Now, the production of the vaccine, it is not limitless. There is we have probably all of us know that there is an issue all over the world, right? To many countries, even Europe, find it difficult to get enough number of vaccines. Therefore, you see the limited number. Available number which is limited, if we are going to allow that to be accessed by those who can afford, those who are rich, again I think you are taking unreasonable kind of approach to vaccine. But now there are other ways of
because doctor, correct me if I'm wrong, but even if you are vaccinated, even if people who can afford the vaccine buy the vaccine, purchase the vaccine and vaccinate themselves, there is also a probability of the other members of the public who are not vaccinated developing various other mutations to the COVID-19 strain, which the vaccine will not be effective against.
Yeah, that is again another aspect of the issue. So therefore, you need to go it methodically, and I can tell you in probably in many, I think most of the countries in the world, the vaccination program is being carried out by governments. But I was going to tell you is that there are other ways where we can involve the private sector. Say for an example, I have proposed this to government again, right? Now you know this we have this expanded program on immunization, that is what we call for children, right? For children, you know, vaccine preventable diseases we have, no? Right? This program, within this program, you know that the general practitioners, for an example, they can ask for a certain number of vaccines from the MOH, area MOH, and they can provide those vaccines within their practices and provide the data on that, right? They can't charge for the vaccine. They can probably they may be able to charge just an admin fee, but not for the drug, right? Not for the vaccine itself. The same way, you know, the private hospitals, private practitioners, you may use in this occasion also to distribute vaccines faster, right? That may be one way that we can, involve private sector. But I don't agree at the moment for the private sector to import vaccine and those who are who have means to provide facilitate their access to those private sector vaccines, right?
Doctor, if the government is not able to import these vaccines, why not allow the private sector?
Yeah, no, government is not actually now. I hope that we'll be getting now at least we have to. I know by going by what we have been informed by the relevant authorities. Yesterday we received 500,000. Probably early June we are receiving 3 million, probably 3 or 2 million Sinopharm, and then we are receiving some more Sputnik vaccines, and then then thereafter there will be in bulks. You see, we will be receiving vaccine, right? Probably Sinopharm and another bulk of Sputnik vaccine. And people say that we are getting some Pfizer vaccine also, but it's more expensive, and then it's difficult to maintain our cold chain with Pfizer, but it's up to government if they are importing. But what I'm saying is that it looks like that we are going to import in bulks uninterrupted, in an uninterrupted manner. So therefore I don't think that there will be a necessity for the private sector to import, to allow private sector to import at this point of vaccination drive.
Doctor, so your argument against allowing private sector companies to import this vaccine to the country is vaccine inequality. Inequality in distribution.
Yeah,
opening access to certain people with the means and closing access to people who don't have the means.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Doctor, what if I tell you that this has already taken place in Sri Lanka? That this is already taking place in Sri Lanka. There are many vaccines, there are many reports of vaccines being handed out to people, influential people, maybe people with contacts of influential people, through the back door, moving out of the standard vaccination procedure that Sri Lanka has. Sri Lanka is one of the countries that has eradicated diseases such as polio, malaria, through and especially diseases like polio, through a massive vaccination drive, a proper setup in Sri Lanka. It's one of the assets that we have. Although it's not something that we can touch and value, it is one of the assets that we can have, the procedure, the methods, the mechanisms that are in place. And people are of the view that this method has been crushed to the ground. Yeah. This method has been crushed to the ground, and people are being allowed to receive this vaccine. Not that we don't want general public to get vaccinated or people to get vaccinated, but getting vaccinated the wrong way. The thing that you speak of preventing by allowing private companies to bring in the vaccine. So if this is already happening in Sri Lanka, where do we go to next?
Yeah, I agree, and I totally share your views on this matter. It's very ugly to see. You see, some influential people are receiving priorities over the real priority persons, you see. And it happens, keep on happening again and again. You know, I am almost 100% sure, right? This health ministry, you know, they should be able to organize these things. You know, I don't know why these things are happening. You know, I have said this in public. I have spoken about this in different places also. The area where I live, there is an MOH office. The days of vaccination, I see hundreds of people on queues on the road, right? On the road, right? So you see that you have a huge school by the side of that MOH office. There is a huge playground, right? I mean, they could have organized that vaccination program in a very nice manner. Schools are closed. You can use that school for that purpose. But they are not doing. I don't know why. But then, same time, I have to tell you, there are places where it happens
perfectly.
Perfectly. You know, they are organizing now. I've heard this Piliyandala Kasbah area, the healthcare providers, you know, they go out of the way.
Dr. Weerasinghe,
they go out of the way and they do a wonderful job in providing
the vaccine to the general public. Dr. Weerasinghe, unfortunately, we've come to the end of the show. And again, getting back to the allowing private companies to bring the vaccine to Sri Lanka, a lot of the people in the country are wondering, we do understand that as a policy, as a government policy, allowing private companies to bring the vaccine to Sri Lanka right now is not advisable. It's not sound. However, given the situation in the country, we need to be practical, and against the practical backdrop in Sri Lanka, the people are wondering as to if this vaccine inequality already exists at a massive scale. What really is the argument that is remaining against allowing these companies to import the vaccine? Doctor, thank you very much for joining us on our show. I believe we covered a lot of ground on the current situation in the country, and especially on the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you very much to all our viewers out there for sending in your questions. I tried to pose as much as I could to Dr. Weerasinghe. There were many more that I received. My apologies for the questions that I could not pose. Until we meet again, that's an end for Newsline Live for tonight. Take care and good night.
Thank you.